So as Christians, the fact that we have homeless people in this country sleeping on the street is an absolute disgrace. But in this video, I'm going to actually speak about something positive that has recently happened in British politics around this issue. But I want to start by showing you this video, and it just gives you such a good scope over how we need to do more for people who are just left behind and abandoned.
It's really humiliating to be shaking a cup 24 hours a day and people just look at you like you some kind of little bum, you know what I'm saying? I mean, I have had people to walk past me and say, "Get a job, bum." And I said, "Wait a minute, I'm not a bum, I'm a human being." And it's hard. But after the end of the day, when people go home and everybody get on the message train and they mind, and then I just feel so bad that I can't be going on, you know. I'm sorry, but it's really emotional because I'm really trying to get myself together and get off this tree, you know. And I don't care what it's doing. If I can get a job and through this humility, you know, I mean, you just lose all your humility when you're shaking a cook begging. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you can look at a person and tell if they gain your respect or not. You know what I mean? A lot of people look at you like you're just a piece of crumbs. You know, I had one guy walk past me and talk about me so bad, and then I just looked at him. I said, "God bless you, sir." He walked past and went down the street, come right back. And he said, "You know what, man, I had a bad day. He said, I'm sorry for even calling you that." He said, "Because I know you're a human being." He said, "Would you accept my apology?" I said, "Apology accepted." He went in his pocket and gave me $30 and said, "Go get you a room and get you something."
God, what a powerful video. And it just goes to show, like, often we view people as statistics. You know, there's this many homeless people. When you think about on this earth, we are all here. We're born in a plethora of different ways. We grow up rich, we grow up poor, we grow up with no parents, with some parents, whatever it is. And that's somebody's life. That's not somebody who is just a statistic. That is somebody's life, minute after minute, day after day, hour after hour, having to be on the street begging just to exist. Imagine that was you. So on the positive news, one of the first things that Andy Burnham, now whatever you think about Labour, whatever you think, this is a good thing, right? And Andy Burnham has now pledged to get rough sleepers off the street by Christmas. So this is just a little thing he said. And it was the first thing he said as Prime Minister in his speech, in his announcement, going into number 10. And that is a good thing. That just shows the humanity, right? Because we need that. So many people, they'll look at some homeless bloke and be like, "Oh, he's, you know, he just spends on drugs, he spends on drink or whatever." Well, the question is, why does he do that? Because he feels terrible about himself. Well, why does he feel terrible about himself? So maybe when he grew up, his dad treated him terribly, whatever. Maybe he had nobody love him. Maybe he had no encouragement at all. And the only bit of dopamine he could get was doing that. I'm not endorsing it remotely. But guys, we've got to understand why people get to places, and we got to show mercy. You know, the mercy we show to others is the mercy that Jesus will show to us. And we could be that person. If life went a bit different, we had no family, we could be that person on the street. We could be that person with a cut. And if anybody ever dares to think they're better than other people or they just need to try a bit harder, have some compassion, because it could be you. It could have been you. And that's somebody's life. That's somebody's daughter. That's somebody's son. That's somebody in this world who is living in this planet in the middle of nowhere, just like you are.
All right. Yeah, just leave the tea right here. Leave it in. Sugar. Only one, two. Yeah. How has it been then here? And
Really good.
Yeah. You get us in. Everyone. Not everyone wants to go. That's very bad, isn't it?
I feel very passionately about this. I spoke in Downing Street when I came into office about putting a care for people at the heart of everything that we do, and that can't be done and if you've got people who've just got nowhere to go and are left sleeping in the streets. In this country, I don't think in this day and age anybody should be forced to sleep rough.
And there'll be a lot of people who say, oh, this is just a publicity stunt, this is just optics, whatever. But even if it is, let's say even if that is the case, it's great that he's doing this. The Prime Minister, you know, one of the most powerful men in the whole of the country, is in a food bank, is in a soup kitchen, is with people who a lot of people view as scum of the earth, who a lot of people view as like not trying hard enough. And here he is speaking to him. Now, am I going to vote Labour? No. Do I like Labour? No. But I'll tell you what, this is brilliant. This is what we need, ladies and gentlemen. As Christians, we must absolutely applaud this type of politic, this type of human being, treating people like human beings. And I just want to show you another little video of a woman, and this is just heartbreaking, and this is just people's reality of living. I mean, if this doesn't break your heart, I don't know what will. But yeah, just give this a little watch.
I've been trying to keep my head above water and just still be living a normal life, but I've been really struggling behind closed doors. This morning, I had to go to a food bank. I don't want everyone knowing that I'm failing, but I'm doing this video because I feel like someone's got to, and I'm desperate.
One of the things I find most sad about poverty or things like is people feeling like a failure, feeling that basically they've failed in life because they, you know, aren't super wealthy. They need to depend on other people, and you know, and there could be a billion reasons. It could be mental health. It could be, you know, you lose a job and then everything goes up. You don't have a trust fund. You don't have security. And I've spoken about this story on my podcast a bit, but I remember being in a soup kitchen and there was a girl I grew up with who was in my classes and stuff. And I saw her come in and she saw me, and the shame she had on her face in seeing me was devastating. She felt like a failure. She felt inferior. She felt like I've completely failed in life. And isn't it so sad? We live in a culture where we'll lift up people like Elon Musk. We'll lift up people like Jeff Bezos. These people making billions and billions and billions of pounds. And there'll be people who can't even eat, can't even give their kids food because they don't have enough money. And the self-hate they must have in their heart of feeling like they haven't done well enough and that their worth is their bank account, their worth is their economics. And they're just trying. They're just trying to make it for every day and not, you know, be in tears, be depressed. And God bless these people. And this is the message of the gospel. Jesus came for the broken, you know, he came for the hurting. And it's one thing for Christianity I fall more and more in love with. The more I find about Jesus, the more I find out about who he was, who the apostles were. The fact that people that were struggling is who he came for. It was not the rich. And I can repeatedly speak about it. And there's been people in my church, I've spoke to them about this, how Jesus came for the poor. He didn't like the rich. And I'll see some people getting comfortable, people who I know are quite affluent, they got a bit of money in the bank. Look, I think churches dilute this message too much. I can't remember the last time I went to a church going out feeling absolutely humbled from the speaking about wealth and money. I cannot remember the last time that I remember that. And, I went to a church in London where there were people with Gucci bags, there were people outside the church of Bentleys. And I've made this point before on the channel, but how can you go around being a Christian in a flashy bag worth thousands and thousands of pounds? I'm sorry, that doesn't align with what Jesus says. That does not align with the gospel message. And it's been diluted, it really has. There's all these like American Christians that, the prosperity gospel and a plethora of different things, the notion that basically being super rich is fine as long as, you give a little bit away and stuff. No. I do not agree. I think you can be wealthy, don't get me wrong. You can be wealthy, be a Christian. I don't think you can be a billionaire ethically. I think you should be allowed to be, but I think it is wrong. And so often this message of who Jesus was and what he spoke about gets diluted. It's easier for a camel to fit through the eye of the needle than it is for a rich man to inherit the kingdom of God. When Jesus said that, interestingly, a lot of New Testament scholars thinks he was being literal, He thought that you could not be rich and enter heaven. Most Christians don't obviously agree with that, and I don't even know my position on that. And people say, well, it's to do with the camel in Jerusalem, and there was this tiny little gate, and to fit through the gate, he had to take everything off. However, you know, one of the most pronounced New Testament scholars, Burnham, he says Jesus was being literal. You know, when the rich man comes to Jesus and says, you know, I followed everything in the book, I followed every commandment, you know, and he goes, sell all your possessions and give it to the poor. You know, and some of the greatest, you know, theologians, I mean, look at C.S. Lewis. When that man died, he didn't even have a lot of money because he gave so much away, because he had a comfortable job and he realized once I'm comfortable, it's my duty to give it away to those who actually need it. And most people didn't even know that. Most people still don't know that about Lewis. A world-renowned apologist and author who made millions and millions. When he died, he didn't actually have that much. It's something that as Christians, we need to really, really speak more about. And I don't think that it gets spoken enough. I really don't. Because I think it makes people uncomfortable. You know, it makes people uncomfortable, the notion that basically to be a Christian is to be radical. It's not to be like, oh, you know, when I have a bit more money, then I'll give. No, no, no. If somebody is hurt, somebody is in need, you've got to. And don't get me wrong, there's times where I fall short massively all the time. I'll see a homeless bloke, I've got a bit of money, but I want a pint, so I'll go. It's not good, right? And I fall short. But the message of the church, the message of the gospel is that radicalness. It's giving your heart to someone. It's celebrating their joys. It's weeping when they're weeping. It's, you know, you cannot experience the blessings of what God can give us if we don't really feel what others feel. And to be a Christian, we must feel what others feel. So here's another video, and this is just absolutely heartbreaking. But again, you know, more poverty with a mum in the UK, and just look at this.
We grew up and we weren't really ashamed of it. We were used to it because it's something that we've always had to do, you know, hand-me-downs and even with shoes. But once you get into high school, people start taking note of that kind of thing, and, you know, we weren't bothered by it, but then we became bothered by it because so many people were saying so many different things, and it's not fair that any child should have to go through that just because they're not as well off as everybody else.
This summer, your Dubai investment can begin in London. Discover Mercedes-Benz Places, Bingati City, a landmark branded residential destination close to Dubai's leading.
Every year in September, you have to have a new school bag, and if you don't, then they all know that you're poor and you can't afford these things, and it's quite hurtful the way the other kids act and speak about it. So.
Are you alright?
Yeah, not bad. Everybody else alright?
Oh, maybe actually.
We had a pair of Versace trousers. They were from the charity shop. But the point being is we were really proud of them. A lot of people, once they realised they were from the charity shop, were like, well, you've not actually gone out and bought that, so you're still not on our level, sort of thing. So you still get the stigma even if you've got the accessory.
You know, I didn't grow up poor. My parents certainly weren't rich. And like, even little things like, yeah, when my mate had a brand or had this thing, and it was like, you're cool if you had that. Then I obviously didn't because it was expensive. And, you know, it seems so basic, it seems so small, but it really affects your childhood, I think, things like that. And, you know, it's just so sad how much of a different starting line everyone has, you know. And the thing that gets me is when somebody from a private school speaks about working harder, or just do this, just work harder, or somebody who's been really privileged, you know, big trust fund baby and all this, and then just like, oh yeah, just try harder, do it, you know. And the implication there is, well, if you aren't wealthy, if you aren't doing well, then you haven't worked hard enough. What a disgusting message. The notion that if you're not cushy right now, the only reason that could be is because, well, you're just not trying hard enough, you know, you just got to work a bit harder and you'll be all right. Doesn't that just go against what Jesus spoke about so much?
We live in a one bedroom. I have two boys and I'm having my third years, and they wouldn't help me at all. When my little girl arrived, even there's no space for a basket to put her in it. I didn't know what I could do. My partner working full time. I didn't know what I could do. The housing is the worst thing.
People are struggling, and the Christian message, the Christian values thing, the people that speak about Christian values is to help everyone who's struggling, not just people who are in our in-group. Now, does that mean we need an economic system that properly works for everyone? Definitely. And, you know, don't get me wrong, I think that's true. However, there's a lot of people that just want to deport people like her. That woman made in the image of God, who's trying her best, who's in one bedroom, whose partner's working full time. And it's disgusting. It is absolutely revolting, that type of language. But I want to finish just on a bit of a positive story, because there is a lot of good things going on in the world. And here is a good example of an amazing woman. So a woman set up a food bank. Well, I say a food bank. It was just basically a stall in the street, and it's like no questions asked, take food. And I just think, what a beautiful person. What an amazing woman. But yeah, give this a watch.
To give free food to people who need it. Henrietta Onyema started giving away food and other supplies after the food bank at her local church had to close. Aisha Baksh went to meet her.
Every weekend, Henrietta gives away food and supplies close to her home in South London, free to whoever needs them, no questions asked.
Some of our neighbours don't really are housebound, they don't go out much, and I knew they needed some help. And sometimes people don't want to come and say I need this. So, and every Saturday when I start, I go and get them first to pick what they need.
She's lived in Bermondsey for over 30 years, but earlier this year, when her local church wasn't able to operate their food bank, she decided to do it herself.
I've got a lot of canned food, pasta, I've got potatoes, bananas, tomatoes, bread.
She started out buying things with her own money, and now she receives donations from local people and supermarkets.
She is an incredible woman who has at her heart really the need of people, and she's always concerned with neighborhood, everything with the community, for the good of others.
You know, it pleases your heart when you've done something good for people. But everybody should help each other in this world. God has made the world so beautiful, because if you have 3 potatoes and someone don't have it, or you have 1, it's not going to make you poor. It's not going to make you to... In fact, the more you give, the more you receive, to be honest with you.
Henrietta says she will carry on doing this for as long as she can, while local people are still in need. Aisha Baksh, BBC London, Bermondsey.
Such a lovely thing to do.
What a lovely, lovely person. And I've got to bring it up again, because we're in such political hot water times where there's all this disgusting rhetoric knocking about. But people like her, you know, her voice, she clearly didn't sound English. You know, clearly not amazing with language of English. Same with the priest. Yeah, these people are fantastic. I mean, they're doing more for the community and people here than most people would ever do. Yeah, in a lot of these Restore, you know, campaign people, they want to deport people like her. You know, people who can't speak very good English, or, you know, a plethora of different other things. Doesn't this just go to show how wrapped up people are in this online world? And all these people that bang on about community and country and all this, well, I'd love to see what they're doing in their community. I'd love to see them volunteering every week at a food bank, a homeless shelter, setting up stalls like that, regularly donating to... No, instead, what are they speaking about? They're speaking about some, you know, person that happens to do something terrible to a woman that happens to be brown or black or whatever, you know. And the notion that these people really care about England, they care about, you know, the sovereign nation and helping people, like, come on. A lot of it is just tribal nonsense. And there's some great people in Restore. Like, there's some, I know people support them, but that's not, I'm not everyone in Restore is like this. But there's a lot of the people, some of the lead advocates from, you know, the likes of Steve Laws, the likes of Connor Tomlinson, these people that bang on about identity stuff and like, oh, we need to help put Britain first. But if you actually boil it down to it, I wonder what they do in their local community. You know, they speak about community, they speak about, you know, fragmentations of community, but it's people like her that are actually doing God's work. It's her who really believes in our Lord Jesus Christ, who really believes that, you know, treating, you know, the most important commandment is to love one another as I've loved you. You know, love your neighbor. Who is your neighbor? It's not the person who's in your in group, it's the person who's in your out group. It's you know, anyone who's in need. It's the, you know, famously the Good Samaritan. And it's such an important rhetoric to keep hold of in these dark, turbulent times in British politics. But yeah, I love you all, and I hope this has kind of moved some of your hearts. And just remember, like, when you're on the street, when you're walking about, just even if you don't have money, just sit and talk to people, you know, struggling, or even if not even homeless, if somebody just looks a bit upset, you know. It's when you truly listen to someone, you know, the famous theologian said, you know, listening to someone and making someone truly feel seen is so close to love, you can barely tell the difference. And if you can't give money, you can give love and you can listen to people. But yeah, God bless all of you. Thanks so much for watching. Follow my Substack. It will link below, mean a lot. It's free and it does help. But yeah, God bless all of you, and I'll see you on the next one very soon. Peace.